Welcome to our biology session. In this section, we're going to learn about reproduction, B13. Reproduction is essential to living things. It is during reproduction that genetic information in the chromosomes is passed on from parents to their offspring. There are two different types of reproduction, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, mitosis produces two genetically identical daughter cells. Both will have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. Two cells produced are clones, and this process is called asexual reproduction. We are going to learn about asexual reproduction in details now. Asexual reproduction only involves one parent. The cell divides by mitosis. There is no joining of special sac cells, so there is no mixing of genetic information. As a result, there is no variation in the offspring. Asexual reproduction gives rise to genetically identical offspring known as clones. The genetic material is identical both to the parent and to each other. Only mitosis is involved in asexual reproduction. It is very common in the smallest animals and plants, in fungi and in some bacteria. However, many large plants such as daffodils and strawberries can also reproduce asexually. The cells in our body also reproduce asexually at all times. They divide into two identical cells for growth and to replace the worn-out tissues. Sexual and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction recurs two parents. However, in asexual reproduction recurs only one parent. Here are some advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is very rapid, very fast. They colonize in a new area quickly. It is safer because there is less chance of mutation, means changing the DNA. Only one parent needed. Therefore, this is really fast, quick. There is no depending of another parent. Disadvantage of asexual reproduction. There is no genetic variation. They are cloned. Therefore, they are most susceptible to the environment, change, and the pathogens. So they cannot fight back strong enough to fight back against diseases or the pathogens or any sort of environmental changes. In sexual reproduction, needs two parents, as I said before. Each parent produces sac cells called gametes. They require two gametes, one from mother, egg cell, one from father, that is sperm cell. They fuse together to do the fertilization and form zygote. Zygote contains 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs of each. In the male sac cells contains 23 chromosomes, which is sperm cell, and the female sac cells contains 23 chromosomes, which is the egg cell. In sexual reproduction, normal human body have 23 pairs of chromosomes, or you can say 46 chromosomes in total. You inherit half of the chromosomes, means 23, from your mother, and half of the chromosomes means 23 from your father. And that's why we often look like the cross between our parents. We inherit characteristics from both our mother and our father. This is the differences between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Single individual means one parent in asexual reproduction. However, in sexual reproduction has or got need two parents. Single parent passes on its genes to offspring, but both parents passes on half of its gene to the offspring. Offspring are genetically identical to the parent. Offspring has a unique combination of gene inherited from both parents. This is cloned asexual reproduction. However, in sexual reproduction, they have got greater genetic variation. Now pause the video and compare between sexual and asexual reproduction. we need 4 points of each. Cell division in sexual reproduction. Before that, we're going to recap the mitosis. In mitosis, parent cell divide into two identical daughter cells. The daughter cells are identical to each other and to their parent cell. Mitosis is the way in old and the damaged cells are replaced, and this is how they grow. In mitosis, one parent cell divides into two identical daughter cells. Now we're going to learn about meiosis in sexual reproduction. Before that, here you can see some keywords and the definitions. These are the keywords: diploid, haploid, gametes, genes, chromosomes, mitosis, alleles, sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction, DNA, and meiosis. These keywords are very important, so pause the video and go through the definitions of each. What are sex cells? Sex cells in animals and plants are called gametes. In animals, the gametes are eggs and the sperms. Gametes are produced by a type of cell division called meiosis. Let's have a look at the egg cell and the sperm cell. If meiosis produces gametes, where it must take place? Let's pause the video, try to answer this question. Meiosis takes place in sex organs, the testes, and the ovaries. Meiosis. Meiosis involves two divisions. In animals, the female gametes are made in the ovaries, the male gametes are made in the testes. The gametes are formed by meiosis. In meiosis, the chromosome number is reduced by half. In a body cell, there are two sets of chromosomes, one inherited from mother and one inherited from father. When a cell divides to form gametes, firstly, the genetic information is copied, so there are 4 sets of each chromosome instead of normal 2 sets. Each chromosome forms a pair of chromatids. This is very similar to mitosis. Secondly, the cell then divides twice in quick succession to form 4 gametes, each with a single set of chromosomes. Each gamete that is produced is genetically different, again genetically different from all the others. Gametes contain random mixtures of the original chromosomes. This introduced the variation. The testes can produce around 400 million sperm by meiosis every 24 hours. Only one sperm is needed to fertilize an egg, but each sperm needs to travel 100,000 times its own length to reach the egg. Less than one sperm in a million generally make it happen. Here, to complete the sentences, let's pause the video and try yourself. Here are the answers for you. Meiosis is a reduction division. Chromosomes number is halved. Resulting daughter cells have half the original number of the chromosomes. Daughter cells are haploid, can be used for sexual reproduction, source for genetic variation. Meiosis has 2 divisions, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Some retrieval questions to answer. What are gametes? What is fertilization? What is the process called which produces gametes? How many divisions are there in this process? What are the products of this process? Let's pause the video and try to answer these questions. Let's go through the answer now. What are gametes? Sex cells, sperm, and the egg. What is fertilization? The fusing of gametes is called fertilization. Meiosis is the process called which produces gametes. 2 division involved in this process, and 4 genetically different haploid cells. Again, different means variation, they have variation. Haploid cells means only 23 cells or chromosomes. Now we are going to discuss about the genetic variation. In sexual reproduction, gametes are produced by meiosis in sex organs of the parents. This introduces variation of each gamete is different. Then when the gametes fuse, one of each pair of chromosomes, so one of each pair of genes, comes from each parent. This adds more variation. The combination of genes in the new pair of chromosomes will contain different forms of the same gene or allele from each parent. This also helps to produce variation in the characteristics of the offspring. Now let's have a look at the crossing over. In the early stage of meiosis, the homologous chromosomes exchange DNA, which create the genetic variation, a new combination of characteristics, and this process is called crossing over. Look at the diagram, you can see the chromosomes before the crossover and chromosomes are genetically different after the crossing over. What is fertilization? Fertilization is the stage of sexual reproduction when gametes fuse together. This is the first stage in the creation of a new life. More variation is added when fertilization takes place. Each sex cell has a single set of chromosomes. When 2 sex cells join during fertilization, the single new cell formed has a full set of chromosomes. In human, the egg cell contains 23 pairs and sperm cell contains 23 pairs of chromosomes. When they join together, they produce a single new body cell with 46 chromosomes in 23 pairs, the correct number of chromosomes for human body cell. When an egg cell is fertilized, they become a zygote. This zygote divides by mitosis many times and becomes an embryo. The combination of genes of the chromosomes of every newly fertilized egg is unique. Once fertilization is complete, the unique new cell begins to divide by mitosis to form a new individual. The number of cells increases rapidly. As the embryo develops, the cell started to differentiate to form different tissues, organs, and organ system. In mitosis and meiosis, there are many steps involved. On the right side, you have some steps for meiosis and mitosis. Let's pause the video and find out which one is for mitosis and which one will go for meiosis. Here is a 6-mark question. Meiosis and mitosis are different types of division in human cells. Compare the 2 processes by referring to where each takes place and kind of products that are made. So 6 marks. Pause the video and try to answer this question. Here is the answer for you. Check yourself now. Variation. The differences between asexual and sexual reproduction are reflected in the different types of cell division involved. Offspring from sexual reproduction have a mixture of 2 sets of chromosomes. The organism inherits genes from both parents. This produces the variation. If we discussed about the differences between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction, why the variation is important. In sexual reproduction, the offspring are produced as a result of mitosis from the parent cell. They contain exactly the same chromosomes and the same genes as their parents. There is no variation in the genetic material. However, in sexual reproduction, the gametes are produced by meiosis in sex organs of the chromosomes of the parents. This introduces variation as each gamete is different. When gametes fuse, one of each pair of chromosomes, and so one of each pair of genes, come from both parents, adding more variation at that point. The combination of genes in the new pair of chromosomes will contain different form of same genes from each parent. This also helps to produce variation in the characteristics of the offspring from their parents. While a change in the environment may kill some individual, it is likely that variation will have led to some of the offspring being able to survive in the new environment. They have a survival advantage. Why is variation advantageous in sexual reproduction? This is because of the natural selection. Individuals will have better chance to survive. They will breed successfully. At the same time, they can adapt to the environment. They can fight back against the pathogens, and they can survive in the new environment for their resources. They can fight for their food, for their shelter, and for their space. And that's why in natural selection, variation is so important. They will have the better adaptability compared to the asexual reproduction offspring. Though there is no variation in asexual reproduction, they have some sort of advantage over sexual reproduction. For example, they need only one parent, they need less energy for that. In asexual reproduction is faster compared to sexual reproduction, and the identical offspring can be found in favorable conditions. Some organisms can reproduce by both methods, both asexual and sexual reproduction. For example, malaria parasite, fungus, and many different plants. Here are some questions for you. Let's have a go. This is the mark scheme to check your answer. Here are some more questions for you to try yourself. Pause the video and try now. Here are the mark scheme for you to check your answer. That's the end of the video. You have another video on reproduction.